It's it's an oldie but a goodie. It is about the story of a small village who find out that a very famous rabbi is coming to visit. They are very excited. And so they meet together, the little sort of group who's going to organize the festivities for the rabbi coming, and they think about how big it's going to be, what the food will look like, what the setup will look like, what the teaching will look like, and they also thought, what's the wine situation going to be? Because it's going to be a great celebration, it's going to be Shabbat, we're going to spend Shabbat together, we need some wine. And so they thought, we don't have that much money, and so what we should do is think about, since this rabbi is not coming for a while, we should set up this sort of area in the middle of the town, sort of almost like a tank, if you will, of wine. And so for the next several months, people can share maybe 1 cup of wine and sort of filled up this tank. So by the time they got to this great celebration, there'd be all this wine for the whole festivity, for the whole town, for the rabbi to come. There'd be this sort of this holding tank, if you will, full of wine. And so they asked everyone, please, every day, pre-Shabbat, post-Shabbat, leading up, half a cup, a little cup, put a little bit of wine, whenever you can, pour it into this sort of reservoir of wine, if you will, so that there'll be a lot of it for this celebration. And so several days go by, and people think, this is wonderful. I get to, I share a little cup of wine. I open up the reservoir. I pour some wine, and it's very nice. And then one person thought to themselves, I don't have that much money, and I don't really give up my wine that much. So what if I walk up with my cup, but it's only with water in it? No one's going to really know that my cup of water is not a cup of wine, and I'll just walk over with my little cup and just open it up and just sort of, just dump it in and just walk away, and no one will really know. And so the day arrived, and the rabbi showed up, and it was a great teaching, and everyone was very excited. They did a wonderful service together, and they finally sat down for the meal, and they opened the spigot, if you will, to fill wine for everyone, and it was all water. All filled with water. And so I want you to think about that in connection to this week's Torah portion, about when we open the spigot, not just the actual one that we might fill with wine, but in our lives, do we want to open our spigot and have the water come out? Or do we want the things in our lives, when we open them up, to have the wine come out? So just think about that as we discuss a little bit of this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is called Truma. It is my second favorite Torah portion in all of the Torah. I can tell you the first one, but later. And so it's a really fabulous Torah portion. It actually talks about the building of a tabernacle. Tabernacle? We know that word? Tabernacle? What's it? Someone can tell me what's a tabernacle besides the bar mitzvah, whose hand is up, which I'm happy you know what a tabernacle is. That makes me comfortable, since the bar mitzvah is tomorrow. So, thank you. Other than the b'nai mitzvah boys, tell me, what's a tabernacle? The traveling sanctuary. Thank you very much. It was what the Israelites built. Eventually, it's where the Ten Commandments are sort of housed, and they wander in the desert in this sort of traveling ark, eventually becoming the ark that is in every synagogue, right? But it was a traveling ark. Good. So the Israelites are told that they have to build this Mishkan, the sort of traveling tabernacle, if you will. And so it's interesting because it's a long section of Torah. We talk about it a little this week, talk about it a little next week. We talk about the intricacies, what you have to bring, the sort of size, the width, the length, who brings what, when particularly you bring what. It's this very intricate detail. And so it's several Torah portions to talk about how you build this little box, essentially, that the Israelites are carrying around with them. I just want, as a side note, to let you know, several chapters of Torah talk about building this box. 34 verses is what God says to create the whole entire world. So God creates the entire universe in 34 verses, and it takes us chapters and chapters to explain how we build a little box. that the Israelites walk around with. Maybe because, well, it's God fixing that, fixing out the details, and us we don't know what we're doing. So like at least 3 times. And so they are told that they are supposed to bring these items to the tabernacle. There are actually 13 materials that they're supposed to bring to the tabernacle. I actually talked about it this past week at the Jewish Day School. And I want to see if you can maybe come up with a few of the items, of the 13 items besides the B'nai Mitzvah. Thank you for raising your hand again, which I feel comfortable again that you knew what they were. And those of you who were there that morning, thank you, can also help. Thank you. These are the ringers in the room. Thank you very much for helping. Think maybe there are 13 items. Tell me maybe some of the items that the Israelites, that God spoke to Moses, and Moses talked to the Israelites and said, we build the tabernacle, bring this stuff. Raise your hand and tell me some of the stuff. Yes. Gold. Yes, thank you. Gold is one of them. Good, yes. Silver is, yes, also good. Silver, yes. Copper, good. One of my ringers, thank you very much. Good, yes. Good, those are the 3 easy ones. Gold, silver, copper, yes.
Wood and precious stones.
Yes, wood and precious stones. Very nice, good. Yes. What's that? Wool, yes, wool, thank you. Different kinds of wool. 3 actually kinds of wool. A blue wool, a purple wool, and a red wool. A little red wool. Lovely. What else? Olive oil, yes. Wow. I'm done. That's phenomenal. You get challah after. That is really good. Okay, let's try and do 2 more. Can we try to do two more? Yes? What's that? Yes, a dolphin skin was used, which is interesting because how they have dolphin skin since they were in the desert. It's complicated to have dolphin skin in the desert. So they're really, really small dolphins in the desert, as you can't see. Really, really. I made the joke at the day school that the only time you see dolphins in the desert is when they come play the Cardinals. Settle in. This is the first hour of the sermon. So, all right, good. So, excellent. So, one more. Anyone? Yes? We said wood. What's that? Gems, we said. Anyone? Everyone's favorite, goat hair. Survey says, ding, goat hair. Oh, yeah, goat hair. And so God speaks to Moses and says, I want these people to bring stuff to build the tabernacle, but I want them to bring these precious things. I want them to do it from a place of want and love and care and where their heart is. I don't want them to be like, how much gold do we have to bring? How much of the goat hair do we have to bring? God wants the Israelites to bring forth literally from their hearts the beauty of building this tabernacle. It connects to the spigot. God wanted them to open it up and the love of the wine to fall in, not the watered down version of maybe how we bring forth to something. And so the Israelites really wanted this beautiful put together of this tabernacle. They really, this is what God wanted. And then there is this famous line, perhaps the most famous line in the Torah portion. Again, one of my favorite lines. If you want to take a field trip to my office at some point, this famous line actually is on a piece of glass art in my office for this line that is in this week's Torah portion. So not all at once to go into my office. I know you're very excited about this. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to go to his office. I'm sure not. So, but it's this famous line that says, V'asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham, which means, make me a tabernacle that I may dwell among you. Not dwell in it. God says, I don't need the box. I need you to build a box so that you will congregate around it, so that you will connect to each other, so there'll be a community, so there'll be love. So when you opened up that wine spigot, it'll just be filled with wine and love. And so This is what the line means. God says, yes, you're going to build a tabernacle. It's going to be pretty. It's going to be nice. You're going to take your time. You're going to work together to build it. But ultimately, the whole point is, and literally this is the best way to explain it, is if you've seen Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. That's what God is saying. If you build this thing, I don't want you to dwell in the box. I want you to build the box so that people will come together around it and celebrate. Sort of like the building you're in now. Right? God doesn't dwell in this room. But when we come together, God is in the space, and then we make connection with our community and the people that we love around us. And so that's what the line is trying to teach us. Perhaps the most important line. The bringing the gold and the connection is all important, but bringing it with your heart and understanding that it's part of the community is essentially what the Torah portion is trying to tell us. And so I will ask you on this Shabbat, what it is in our lives that we take pride in building. Not just the physical building, but in our lives, in our connections, in our families. What do we take pride in? When we open the spigot and we're so excited about what comes out of it, what sort of wine are we bringing to our connections, to our families, to our community, to the good things, to the complicated things, to the difficult things, to the celebratory things? What are we bringing forth? What sort of gold? What sort of silver? What sort of items are we bringing as we build our own sort of tabernacle, our own sort of place that we connect and worship? And so I invite all of us to think of those things, to keep pouring the wine in our lives, and to bring forth the beautiful, beautiful, meaningful materials that build our lives, and ultimately to do all these things from only of a place of our heart. Shabbat Shalom.